Today, I am your tour guide to the abandoned and forgotten Spanish ruins of New Mexico. This is not just rubble and blocks cast aside. In fact, it has walls over 30 foot tall, and it reminds me of a castle from long ago. Take a virtual vacation with me as we explore abandoned New Mexico. Welcome to Quarai, the Salinas Pueblo Missions National Monument. It was built by the Spanish and the Tiwa natives right around 1628. Now, this isn't my story, but I'm going to kind of tell you the story of New Mexico. The time frame, you have to realize that colonization, you had France, they were at war with Spain and England. They just everybody did not get along with anybody pretty much. And this here was the Tiwa people. They've been on the Pueblos. I think they had 800 to 1,000 people here. And that was the original Pueblos. They've been around since about 900 AD. Now this is the church that was built. They went through, and when they came, there would be basically they would come in, and they would have soldiers with them, of course, to go ahead and help run stuff. And then you would have the priests. And you actually had the job of the priest was to convert everybody to Catholicism, or to become Catholic, and to also eradicate the native Pueblo religion. That was one of the goals, actually, of Spain, the rulers of Spain at that time. There also was to go ahead and just get settlers and get new Spanish or new people for the Empire of Spain and new resources. They were also building up here to protect the silver mines that were down in Mexico. At this time, they'd already taken over Mexico, the Aztecs. They'd had done a lot of stuff down in Peru and those different places. So this was kind of the new frontier up here. They were also looking for the 7 cities of gold, which they never found. This is the inside of the church that you're looking at. The walls are 30, 40 feet. I mean, you had to, when you come into this place, I mean, you had to feel small. It was huge. One thing the Spanish were experts at was building, and they used the local rock, and they actually built 3 different missions that are all within about an 80-mile radius. There's my wife. She's about 5.5 foot tall, just to kind of give you an idea how tall this stuff is here. But I'm walking. I'm 6'3", and I feel kind of small in this place. I mean, looking around here, I almost feel like I'm exploring, I don't know, just it's like I step back in time a little bit. It's amazing. This stuff's over almost 400 years old. Now look at the beam right there, and I'll come a little closer for you better look, but that was hand hewn, and you can see the axe marks on it of how that was made. Now, one of the things that Spain did offer to the locals was they taught them the farming. They also brought in livestock, sheep, oxen, horses, and they also taught them things like irrigation, different things like this that they'd never seen before. So that was a really big bonus. And when it all started, when they were coming in, they were usually fairly well received. Of course, they brought gifts, did the whole thing like that. But a little later on, one of the other things that happened, unfortunately, is that the locals, or the natives, had no resistance to the diseases that the Spanish had. And a lot of them died off that way just from the diseases they had no immunity to. Now, when you walk around here, these would all be different buildings, all connected to the church. I I mean, if you can put yourself back that 400 years, you'd almost feel,
Well, what is this?
you know, these are all connected. And just the manpower it took just to build this. And that manpower was supplied by the local natives. Make no mistake of that. Now, this right here is talking about the cross or the crown. There were issues not only with the Spanish and the locals, or the natives, but also between who is controlling what. You had the Catholic priests, and then you also had the soldiers and the administrators. And this is an example of one of the things where the Catholic priest says you owe ultimate fealty to God. And one of the captains of the Spanish captains came in, of the guard, I guess of the guard, he was one of the authorities in the deal, and he yells, "No, you owe it to the king." And a big argument erupted, and that was actually one of the issues. They had like over 25 missions at this time over in New Mexico and the surrounding areas. But that was one of the big problems they ran into. They were always fighting for who had control of it. So you had the Spanish fighting among themselves, and then you also trying to control more and more of the locals and make them good Spanish citizens. And then they also were taxing the locals, which didn't go over really well. Now, just to kind of give you an idea how deep some of these walls is, I'm not sure what this is, but this wall, you can go through there, this window. Check this out. I mean, it's amazing when you just look at, you know, this was very fertile country. Matter of fact, one of the things that they did over here was actually grew cotton. And that was one of the trading items that the locals or the natives used. The Tiwa people used the cotton, and they went ahead and made blankets out of it. And that was a big trade item with the Spanish and also with other tribes and stuff. Now, there were also issues as far as like the Plains tribes, where they're considered the Pueblo enemies. So that was always a problem with raiding and stuff like that. So just kind of the time period of what you're in, you just have to kind of step back and realize where you're at. Now, as we go through this, almost amazed. Can you imagine with all the roofs and what everything? And this was 2 stories up there. A lot of those holes would be where the big beams. You'd have big hand-hewn beams that would go through. Just imagine trying to build that. I mean, something that's 40 foot tall, even today, if you were not using the cranes and stuff, can you imagine doing that all by hand? It's crazy. Now this is the front here. And then we're gonna go around and kind of just, now out here you're looking at the pueblos that the Tiwa people used to live in. Most of them are buried on the mounds and stuff like that. They go back, I don't know, almost over 1,000 years, I believe. So, but a lot of them are buried and they haven't been uncovered. And by 1677, Fray Periga, who was the priest for the area, locked the mission doors one last time. This was the letter he wrote. "The drought and famine continues. Many are sick, some are dying. I am giving charity to the natives. Provisions stored for just this case are painfully low. We have received more cattle and other provisions for the Spanish soldiers and the natives. The terror and the outages continue. Some are leaving every day. Fray Francisco de Artiga and the Prosecutor General and the custodian of the province of New Mexico was to bring us carts and supplies and reinforcements. But I have decided that we can wait no longer. We must leave. All 200 families go north to Tlaque, where there's a mission and a settlement. If that too is unprotected, we will go to Isleta to be with the other Tiwa speakers." That was the ending of this beautiful mission. As you can see, these walls, there's another picture of the pueblos. But you see these walls, these are 40-foot tall walls. These were the last days, the letter I was just reading you, so you can just see they're running away from other hostile tribes. They have no food. There's been a drought for 3 years that's just decimated the local populations, not to mention disease, a lot of the stuff that was brought over by the Spanish that they just had no way of fighting at all. No immunities. So basically this magnificent church and everything lasted for about 50 years. Just kind of giving you a little different view here as we walk around the outside. It's amazing. They only last for 50 years, yet 400 years later, here we are looking at what they built. You know, nothing we build nowadays is going to last 400 years, not much anyway. Welcome to Mission San Gregorio de Abo. You can almost hear like the chanting voices or the mission bells as they ring. This mission was from 1622 until 1673. When New Spain, when the Spaniards came over and built some amazing places, but this was also all built with native help. Their goal was to go ahead and convert everybody to become Catholics. Didn't the first couple years, first 20, 30 years went pretty well, but there was also constant, like I said, infighting between Spanish soldiers, administrators, and the Catholic Church. There was always who was in control, and that was always an issue. And then the natives worked really well. Like I said, they brought a lot to it. It'd be irrigation, there would be farm animals, they'd show them how to raise things. But you have to realize all these areas were pretty prosperous before the Spanish came into them. This place actually had 2 churches. The first church was built in 1622. The church you're looking at right now was actually built, I believe, in 1651 is when this one you see that's standing. That's when this church was built. They felt they needed a bigger presence, stuff like that. As you look around, like I said, the construction you see is very similar to the, almost identical actually when you look at it, to the other mission. Very, very similar. Now, one of the things, like I said, they were trying to go ahead and supply the natives with food, and this was actually, this was not the Tiwa tribe down here. It was a different tribe of Pueblo Indians that were down this way. And you can see a lot of times, like some of those window things would actually be where they had the beams for like a second floor. Sometimes stuff was windows, but sometimes it was actually for the big hand-hewn beams. Everything. Now this is a kiva. Now kivas were used as a religious. It was actually for the natives. It was a big religious item. The round kivas there. It was sacred. They would go through and have paintings and Kachina's faces and different things like that. In about 1660, a lot of stuff started happening. The church started cracking down on the kivas and anything that to do with the Pueblo religions, and that didn't go very well. So they were getting a lot of resistance at that time too. It is kind of interesting though that you have a mission here with a kiva in the middle of it. So you kind of have to wonder what that was all about. I was just taking a look and walking around here. I mean, these walls are massive, but that's really probably why they're still here. But their stonework was amazing. I'd love to have a house built with some of that stonework. That stuff's amazing. Just the deal. Now, look at that. These are all hand-hewn logs. All done by hand. I mean, this was up to, what, 30, 40 foot tall? Didn't have the cranes and all the stuff of today. So, I mean, just the... You know, there's some of the stairs. You couldn't go up to that. But that did show some of the stairs and where you enter. Like I said, a lot of those areas are gone now. But after 400 years, stuff happens. But that was actually up the second stories. And you can see is just kind of walk around. And what started happening, they basically in 1673 they end up closing the mission, locking the mission, and leaving. At that time there was also a lot of issues with the natives. Matter of fact, they had the Pueblo Revolution just a couple years later, where they didn't allow the Spanish into any of the areas for almost 12 years. So that's kind of
Yep.
Here's my wife saying hi, by the way. It's Amanda. Hello, Amanda.
You're right in it.
So it was kind of, by the time a lot of this stuff happened, they closed the mission. The Spanish had kind of worn out their welcome. I mean, they were making taxation, so they're taxing everybody. They're requiring them to go ahead and become Catholics, and they're trying to destroy their Pueblo religions, and it just didn't go well. Meanwhile, France is also, during a lot of this time, is at war. Spain is at war with France, and so there's just a lot of stuff going on. So they're probably not getting near the support for the new Spain that they would normally want. And you can see out there, there'd be the Pueblos out there. This would be a two-story, at least.
It's amazing how tall this is.
Just kind of walking around to show it to you. This one, like I said, was unusual. It did have two priests at one time, which was unusual. Usually there was only one priest, but this one had two for quite a while. And now I'm going to go around and just show you the back. Look at that beautiful sky, though. New Mexico has just got some gorgeous outdoor settings, and this is the back side. And you'll see, similar, just like the other one, the structure where they had the how they built the towers and stairwells and all that. Everything is very, very similar to the last mission. They had a certain way to build it, and they taught the locals how to do that, and then they oversaw it. And remember that back corner of this had these exact same type of construction. And it's because of that that the things last for 400 years. There's some of the stuff for the second story way up there. It's amazing. It's like 40 foot up. Big jump. With the end coming, they finally had to go ahead and leave. And when they finally actually did leave, and when the revolt happened in 1680, many of the natives that were converted left with them and went to El Paso. And this Pueblo was pretty much abandoned after that. Check out our next video.